Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome everyone to this episode of Exploring the Quran, our fifth lesson. Where inshallah ta'ala today we'll be finishing reflecting on some of the benefits and some of the meanings from Surah Al-Baqarah and going into Surah Al-Imran inshallah ta'ala. We stopped yesterday mentioning some of the benefits that we gained from Surah Al-Baqarah. And from the things when you reflect on Surah Al-Baqarah that you gain is that in Islam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something haram upon us, He gives us the alternative. And so there's not any, and this is a big misconception that many people have, that if we're going to be practicing Muslims, then we're going to be isolated from society. We're not going to be able to enjoy the finer things in life, where the opposite is true. And Surah Al-Baqarah focuses on many of those meanings. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, tells us to eat from the tayyibat, from the good that He's provided for us. And then He mentions just a few of the things that are halal, the things that are good for us, eat from those. And the few things which are haram for us, that can harm us, He told us to stay away from. Mentioned three things in the verse, as we mentioned yesterday, which is being the dead animals or the blood, or eating pork. So there's three things, but other things, and generally speaking, and the general thing, that's why they say the asl. And the origin when it comes to food is that it's halal. And if you go now, for example, and I always give this example for us living in the West as Muslims, if you go to Tesco or one of these, Western branches, the majority of what's inside from the food is halal. I mean, you have the issue of the meat, the zabiha meat, and the zabiha meat, obviously that's, and even if you remove the meat section, and then you remove the alcohol section, or you go to the biscuits, you go to other things, you're going to find that the majority of what's inside is halal, alhamdulillah. And there's so many choices you can choose from and enjoy. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something haram, there's also other alternatives. When you look at, for example, the issue of the transactions, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the interest haram, what did the ayah say in the beginning? وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ. That Allah made the transaction halal. And then He said, وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. And He made the riba haram. So they said, the scholars, that the origin is that all the transactions are halal unless there's something. In business transactions, all of them are halal unless there's something that comes and shows it's haram. So the things that are haram in business transactions are much less than the things that are what halal and permissible for us. So this shows us the beauty of Islam. That Islam doesn't make things difficult, and it makes the things haram for us and forbidden the things that harm us, and the things that are not good for us. These are the things that will be haram. Something else interesting about Surah Al-Baqarah is that it's the only surah in the Quran that mentions all five pillars of Islam. All five of the pillars of Islam are mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. Also, and when you look at Surah Al-Baqarah from the beginning, and a very powerful message when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, that this is the book, there's no doubt about it. And this shows right away, for anyone who reflects on it, that it has to be something from a divine nature. Because no author throughout history has come and written a book and made that type of challenge right from the beginning of the book, that this is the book, there's no doubt about it. This is the clear book, there's no doubt whatsoever, no misconception, no doubt, it's clear. And then even when you look in the haddi, or the challenge that was made, when you go to that's on the first page, if you go to the third page, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا, if you have any doubt about what we sent down upon our servant, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ, then bring a surah like it, bring one surah, just one surah if you can do it. And the challenge once again, and this shows you the power of the Quran, and that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the muttaqeen in the beginning of the surah, on the first page as well, the first description that He gives for them is that they are yu'minuna bil ghayb, that they believe in the unseen. And also at the end of the surah, we said there's a relation, a connection between the beginning of the surah and the end of the surah, which is Allah mentions al-iman bil ghayb, the belief in the unseen. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the beginning mentions their characters, they believe in al-ghayb. And He mentions at the end, آمَنَ الرَّسُولُ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ رَبِّهِ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And He mentions what the Rasul and what the believers believe. And He mentions believing in Allah and His angels and His books and His prophets. And كُلٌّ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. And this iman with al-ghayb and the belief of the unseen, it is the core of the aqidah, which is in the heart, a'mal al-qulub, the belief of the heart. And this reminds us of the importance of focusing on the issues which are the a'mal al-qulub, the ibadah, the worship that is in the heart. And the heart, that is the origin. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if it's correct, if it's good, then the rest, inshallah, is going to be good after that. It all starts in the heart. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks into into what is our intentions, Allah looks into our hearts. Allah looks into the reality of our faith. It all starts in the heart. And this is what the beginning and the end of the surah is reminding us of as well. Also, something very interesting, this surah shows us the importance of seeking knowledge. And when you look in the surah, and many times throughout the surah, when وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءِ, when he told Adam al-asma, and he taught him the different names, and also the example when he said, Musa أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ أَنْ أَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, I seek refuge to be from those who are ignorant. And when they say, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, zidni ilman, to increase us in our knowledge. All of these are examples in this surah of the importance of increasing in knowledge. And obviously from the beginning of the Quran, the first revelation was Iqra, to show that this religion is a religion built upon knowledge. Something very interesting as well from the benefits of this surah, that the life that we live in the world that we live in, sometimes you see some crazy things, and you see some crazy people who do some very strange and bizarre things. And sometimes you can't understand how someone could have a heart, could do these type of things. Someone with any type of good in their heart could do something like this. But look at the example that Allah gave in the surah, and now it makes sense. You start to understand when you look at this example that Allah gave when He talked about the hearts of the people. ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. That then their hearts became hardened, and it became like rocks. In fact, it was even harder than rocks. So when the heart becomes like that, the good can't come in, and then the evil will easily come out. When the heart is that situation, Allah gave us that example. And also the example that Allah gave us of those who turned away from the revelation and what happened to them. If you look in, when you come to the after verse 100, from verse 101 onwards, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of the book who received the book, and He said, Kitabullahi wara'a dhuhurihim, that they put the book of Allah behind their backs. And they didn't pay attention to their book, to the revelation they received. They put it behind their backs, and they rejected acting upon it. And what happened at the end? Then the verse comes after that, وَاتَّبَعُوا مَا تَتْلُو الشَّيَاطِينَ, that they are the ones who followed the shayateen. And the ones who reject the revelation, the ones who don't act upon the revelation, always they're going to be the ones who follow the shayateen and fall into the traps of the shayateen. These are some of the benefits that we gain from this amazing surah, and some of the main topics that it focused on, and some of the main benefits that we gain. Inshallah, now, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to start reflecting a bit on Surah Al-Imran. And Surah Al-Imran, it is one of the surahs that was revealed in Medina as well, like Surah Al-Baqarah, and it's 200 verses. So we might say right away that it's the second longest surah in the Quran, because Surah Al-Baqarah, how many verses was it? Sitting at home, we still want you to answer. How many verses in Surah Al-Baqarah? 286. And Surah Al-Imran is 200, and Nisa is 176, right? So we would say that Surah Al-Imran is the second longest surah in the Quran. But if you count the pages, actually Surah Al-Nisa is a bit longer than Al-Imran, meaning that some of the verses would be longer. That's what would make it longer. But anyways, these are the longest surahs in the Quran, clearly. The point, and from the beginning, you have the Tiwal all the way up to Al-Ma'idah and onwards, as we're going to mention, inshallah, in the next coming lesson, about what are the 7 of Tiwal that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the 7 long surahs that he mentioned and praised, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the hadith. We'll mention that at the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, inshallah ta'ala. When it comes to the name of the surah, the name Al-Imran and also Al-Zahra, we took this yesterday, the meaning of Zahra. Al-Imran, because the story, it talks about the story of the house of Imran and this blessed family who strove to serve the religion of Islam. Pay attention to that. This blessed family who strove to serve the religion. And we're going to see the examples in the surah. And then we go back to the main theme of the surah. We're going to mention in a minute. You're going to understand that, inshallah, in more detail. The other name is Zahra. And we said that this means that it's a light. It's a light, it's a source of guidance with Surah Al-Baqarah that will guide you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you follow the straight path. When you, as we say in Surah Al-Baqarah, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed us the implementation, Surah Al-Baqarah, what the path was, the methodology we need to follow in the path. And now here in Surah Al-Imran is also going to show us how to stay firm upon the path. And that is the main topic of this surah. The main theme of this surah is the thabat, to stay firm upon the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're going to show you in detail what that means. When it comes to the virtues of this surah, we know that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the hadith, he mentioned Surah Al-Baqarah, when he said, read the Quran because it comes Yawm al-Qiyamah as an interceder for the ones who read it. And then he said, read Surah Al-Baqarah and Ali Imran. And he said that they're the two zahras, the two ones that will be the light for the individuals who read them, inshallah ta'ala, and one of the narration who act upon the Quran. What's meant is to read it, to act upon it. Those who read it and act upon it, that they will come and they will be like clouds, as he mentioned in the hadith, alayhi salatu wasalam, coming to intercede for the ones who read them Yawm al-Qiyamah. So this is one of the virtues for Surah Al-Baqarah and for Surah Al-Imran. Also, the great name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He mentioned in the hadith, alayhi salatu wasalam, that it's mentioned in the beginning of Surah Al-Imran, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. And these are the two places that it comes in the Quran, al-hayyul qayyum, in three places in the Quran, and in Surah Al-Baqarah, and here, the first two that comes in the Quran. And the relation between the surah, there's another hadith we'll mention, inshallah, where it comes and talks about the virtues of the surah. A very interesting hadith, that Bilal radiallahu anhu, he came into the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he to wake him up for Salat al-Fajr, and he saw that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was crying. I want you to really reflect on this hadith with me. He came in to wake the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam up for Fajr, and he found that he was crying. And he said, what makes you cry, Ya Rasulullah? And he said, how can I not cry when these verses were revealed to me tonight? And he started to read for him the last 10 verses from Surah Al-Baqarah, from Surah Al-Imran. The last 10 verses, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That indeed, in the reflection and the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the differences in the night and the day, are signs for those who reflect. And then he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, I want all of us just to stop. And I know that you guys are getting ready for your iftar. Some of you and other places around the world might have already had your iftar, or whatever it might be that you're doing. The fact you're watching or listening, I just want you to stop and reflect on this for a minute, because it's very deep. And he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, at the end of the hadith, he said, وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ قَرَأَهَا وَلَمْ يَتَفَكِّرْ فِيهَا. He said, woe to those who read these verses and they do not reflect on them. These verses are very deep. And I recall one time when I was praying behind one of the sheikhs, I think I did a video about it some time back. It was actually a small conference we had with myself, that sheikh, and Sheikh Yusuf Estes. We were in Doha many years ago. And the sheikh, he was a very beautiful qari, and he read these ayat. And these ayat that has beautiful dua in it. And we mentioned before, obviously, because now, as we're praying Taraweeh at home, it's an opportunity to learn different du'as. So he made these dua, and as he was reading these ayat, you could feel it like coming from his heart as he was reading it, along with the beautiful recitation. It was amazing. And there's like, I really felt the meanings of these ayat. So go and reflect on these ayat tonight, inshallah ta'ala. Take out some time. I know everybody's in a hurry to get their khatma, to finish the Quran, but we want to focus on some quantity. I mean, reading as much as we can, but we also want to focus on some quality as well. So let's take out some time to reflect on these last 10 verses and how deep they are. He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, woe to those who read them and do not reflect on their meanings. That's why Allah said in the ayah about making the tadabbur, reflecting, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. And that brings us, do they reflect on the Quran, or they have lots upon their hearts? And that brings us to the end of today's episode, inshallah ta'ala. We'll continue tomorrow talking about some of the gains and benefits we gain from Surah Al Imran, and then we'll go inshallah ta'ala into Surah An Nisa and onwards throughout the Quran inshallah ta'ala. Until then, Allah knows best. Allahu alam wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Nabi Muhammad wa jazakum Allahu khairan.